This is Al Forn for Oosh TV here at the Matchroom Boxing Gym with Mr. George Liddard. 12-0, 7 knockouts, our very own Oosh sponsored athlete. George, firstly, how are you feeling? Big fight next month.
I'm very excited. October 17th couldn't come soon enough for me. As you've seen today, we're putting the work in. You know, this is just one day out of the hundreds that I put in towards this, thousands even, that I've done my whole life, you know, to get to this point now. So, very excited.
Just talk to me about the journey of George Liddard and, you know, how you got here. Because I know you have an amateur background, but what I want to kind of skip past that. You can talk about that as well, but I want to skip past that and get to COVID, because during COVID, you had 6 months off boxing. And it's funny, we were having this conversation on the way. You kindly picked us up, by the way, from Brentwood. Thank you very much. But we had this conversation about you being away from boxing and how much you hated it and how much you needed it. During COVID, you were like a windscreen fitter. You were working with your dad. Just how was that kind of at that time? Because I think it's been your only time away from boxing.
Yeah, I've been doing this since I was like, 8, 9 years old. And my longest ever break was COVID. You know, I don't think I'd ever had more than a few weeks off, maybe being on holiday, until COVID came. And obviously going from being, in sixth form doing my A-levels, boxing every night, working at weekends, I was always busy, to being stuck in the house. It might have even been longer than 6 months that I went without boxing. And I didn't fight for a good nearly 2 years. So it was a very hard time for me. I struggled a lot mentally with that. I went into a bit of a bad phase as we started to come out of lockdown. The gyms still weren't open. They were like one of the last things, boxing gyms to start opening. So I just turned 18, so I started going to the pub, falling into kind of the wrong things. And I was so glad when, boxing came back around for me, because it was like a saviour, that and obviously coming closer to Christ and finding, peace in God's plan for me. That got me through those hard times, and I'm pleased to say, I'm at where I'm at today, because, you never would have known if lockdown would have gone on much longer, if I ever would have got back to it, So, boxing's like my peace in life. I find peace in the violence, as cheesy as it sounds.
but isn't that the case as well? Like, I think people need structure in their lives, just as a whole, in general. I spoke to Joseph Parker back in July, and as many know, he has been eager to go for a fight since he beat Martin Bacoli back in February. And he said, back home he has 6 children. So back home he says he loves it. He loves being with his wife and kids, but there's no structure. And he has his training camp in Ireland. And with that, there's a sense of structure, and you kind of feel, you could say you feel on top of life at that point. That's kind of, you need that, don't you?
I think boxing at times gives you a bit of a purpose. As sad as it kind of sounds, it's like everyone's kind of got to have their reason why.
It's not sad, because you're
job.
You're searching for glory, yeah.
It's more than a job. I think that's what people don't get. Like, this is a 24/7 job, If I have a bad day in here in my office as such, I can't go home and, have a bad bit of food to, make myself feel better, or go out with the boys, have a drink. Do you know what I mean? As some people do when they have a bad day at work. This is 24/7, we live this. This for me is, everything. Boxing gives you that structure. It gives you that reason why in the morning. You get up and it's like, I've got 2 sessions today. I'm out at Lee Steps like today, Lee Steps this morning. Come back, I get a bit of rest, and then we're back in here working. It's that structure of day in, day out, putting my body through my paces, and mentally challenging. It's mentally challenging every day. It gives you a reason why. And boxing's that for me. So without it, obviously, you just feel lost.
Well, having known you, obviously, I met you for the first time at the Misfits event, and you're I can see now you're a very a bright character, a very happy character in here. You're always smiling, and that is essentially your purpose. And I think that's a good character trait to have as well, because we were in here, the camaraderie between obviously yourself and Tony, and we met Maisie and John. It just seems to be that there's a great vibe in this gym.
100%. I think we're all people going through the same part of our lives, if that makes sense. Like, me and Maisie joined the gym I think within the same month of each other. So we've kind of almost been on this journey together. You know, I remember picking her up from the station every session, and we'd come down here, you know, we'd get our work done, and I'd be dropping her back to the station. So for me and Maisie especially, like, we've been in this journey together. And the same with Tony. You know, Tony took me on when I was just 19. Obviously see, you know, some talent in me, and he's on this journey with me. You know, he's here every day. Obviously he's got other fighters to train, but and same with John, you know, those 7 a.m. mornings, I'm not the only one there. You know, my coaches are there too. So I think that camaraderie, that seeing, you know, that they're just as involved in this as I am. You know, this is their lives too. I think that just gives you that extra spur sometimes. You know, when times get tough, you've got other people in your gym to lean on. We do our morning sessions together. You know, we train in here around the same time. You know, so we're all together going through this. We're all going through the pain and the struggle of, you know, getting yourself in that, you know, fight, ready for the fight together. I think that adds a little bit, you know.
Talk to me about that text you got from Tony a couple of years ago. Life-changing text. You essentially hopped on a very exciting train in that sense, didn't you?
Yeah, so I remember the first time he messaged, he asked me to come down for a bit of sparring with John and Felix. And the first time I just had COVID myself. So I was like, a bit ill, can't train. He asked me again, and funnily enough, I was on holiday when he texted. And I thought, if I say no, he's not going to ask me again. So I was like, next week I'm back. Let's get the rounds in. I'll be down here. I'm on holiday, like eating what I want. You know what I mean? Yeah. Not exactly in the best shape, but I thought I've got to seize that opportunity. Get the sparring. Come down here, spar John and Felix, and I text Tony. I was like, Tone, I'd love to turn pro at some point myself. You know, I was 19 at the time, and he was like, listen, come. He obviously sees something with sparring, and obviously see something in me, and he said, look, come down, train with us, and let's see how you get on. And now I'm here, I know what that meant. It was like, come down, train with us, and if you survive, you can stay here. Do you know what I mean? Because you see a lot of fighters come and go here. You know, it's no joke. Like, you come from the amateurs and you think it's, you know, the pro life's all this great. You get paid to fight and this and that, and it's no joke. Like, what we put ourselves through week in, week out is hard. And I think that transition at first is probably even harder than it is now at times, because your body, especially me at 19, you know, I'm definitely not fully developed yet as a man at 19. And, you know, you're putting your body through it every day.
But he saw that potential straight away the first time you entered this gym.
I think he sees something, obviously.
But he's seen it if he texts you as well.
Yeah, 100%. You know, he knew I had something in me, and they kind of stripped me back to basics at first. At first I thought, like, am I no good? Like, what? They don't want me to do this, they don't want me to do that. But now I realised it was all, they stripped me back to basics, and then they developed me into more of a pro fighter. And then all my natural attributes started to come with it, you know. Yeah. At first I felt like I was slowing down a lot, but then I realised it's not that. They just want me to get the technical side right first. Then my natural attributes can start to come through. And I think I didn't have my debut for about 8-9 months of training down here. So it was a long time of just getting ready to fight. And by the time it come, you know, I feel like a lot of people were already like, wow, he looks like a
really polished
pro already, you know, in just my first fight. But you got to remember, I was surrounded by great fighters down here, you know, Conor Ben, John Ryder at the time as well was still boxing. Joe Cordina, we had Craig Richards, you know, Felix Cat, all high-level fighters, you know, domestically or world-level fighters. So I had all of them to kind of watch and be like, okay, this is how you go about it. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm far more experienced than what my fights tell. Yeah.
You answered my question in that sense, because I was going to ask you, like, how much knowledge have you soaked up from all of those fighters?
It's amazing. It's something money can't buy. Do you know what I mean? Having the opportunity to train here, and obviously John Ryder now part of our coaching team, but I shared many rounds with him. Shared rounds with him coming up to the Canelo fight, and to move around with people like that, it's like they'll do something. When this is obviously when I was only 3-4-0, I think, when John fought Canelo, and you'd be inside and they'd hit you saying, you think, where the hell did that come from? Do you know what I mean? Like they'd put something in there and you think, and then you wouldn't get caught with it again, because you'd think, you'd figure out after a couple of times, and you think, I might try that myself. Next thing you know, you're doing it to another kid that's coming through. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like I soaked up a lot from all the great fighters that have been down here.
Talk to me about your relationship with Tony. We caught a glimpse of it, of just some of the advice he was giving you. It seems as if it's a really strong bond. There always is between boxer and coach, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't thank Tony enough, you know, for the opportunity that he gave me to come here and to to be a part of the Matchroom team, which, you know, got me a shot with Matchroom Boxing as a promotional team. And, you know, it's all about doing them proud and proving them right, you know, that they give the right person the opportunity. And I feel like I'm well on my way to doing that now. So, but yeah, me and Tony get on great, you know, as far as coach and fighter goes, it's great. You know, we was out for Turkish last night together, enjoying a nice Turkish after the press conference. So it's great to have that bond with your trainer, you know.
Yeah.
Makes life easier.
It's essentially like another father figure, isn't it?
There's nothing but respect, you know, for Tony. When Tony says something and Tony says to do something, you do it. Do you know what I mean? So as much as you get on, it's like, you know your place. You know,
but I noticed that as well. Every bit of advice he was giving you, you were repeating that advice with excitement. Like, oh yeah, like something. Every bit of advice, you're finding out something new. Another trick in the book.
I think when you're not learning anymore, that's when it's your time to pack it in a way. Do you know what I mean? I feel like every day I'm always learning, and you know, whether it's a new sparring partner that I'm in with might try something different that I haven't seen before, or it's Tony spotting something that maybe we haven't spotted before, or giving me something else to try that we haven't tried. I feel like when that stops, you know, you lose the love for it. I love learning, and you know, every day I'm down here, I feel like I'm always learning something or bettering something. So, you know, as long as that goes on, I'm going to love doing this.
Let's get to your opponent, Kieron Conway. The two of you had a bit of a back and forth there on the Matchroom podcast, I believe. He didn't shake your hand at the end, so things are getting spicy before the 17th of October.
The funny thing is, he said I had immaturity, and you know, I was happy. I'd have been happy to shake his hand. You know, it's business at the end of the day. I ain't got nothing personal against him. I just think I'm a better fighter, and that I'm going to get the job done in style on October 17th, as I'm sure he thinks in his own mind. So, listen, some people can't handle it, can they? They can't handle the spice. But I love this. I live for this. You know, I don't just love winning. I love fighting. I love fighting. I love the art of war. You know, this is what it is for me, and all of that's part of it. So, yeah.
Do you love the showman element to it as well, the trash talk?
I enjoy it. There's a lot of people. Listen, I don't think I'm not the type to really trash talk. Like, if someone comes for me, I'll give it back. But I like to keep things classy. I just like to state facts. You know, if someone's sitting there kind of bad mouthing my career or telling me I've not boxed anyone when they're boxing a very similar level of opposition in their like 26th fight to I am in my 12th, you know, they ain't really want to talk, are they? So I won't stand for it, you know. He tried to call me a kid, this and that, but, you know, when it comes down to it, I feel like I'm more of a man than a lot of these guys that are older than me, so it's just my time to prove that now.
How do you envision your method of victory against Kieron Conway on your call on the 17th of October?
You know what it is for me? Listen, I do believe when I turn up there, I don't see him surviving the 12 rounds against me. If he does, it's by any means necessary. All I have to do is win. I'll win on October 17th and bring those belts back to Billericay. That's all that matters. But to do it in style, which I know I'm capable of, it'll just be that cherry on top.
Billericay's a great town, by the way. I gigged in Billericay a few years ago when Tyson was in town.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Do you remember he had a show a few years ago?
I was there at Stockbrook Manor.
Yeah.
Yeah, the golf course. I was there. I remember you was there, actually. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. I remember.
Mad,
I was actually
full
there
circle.
with one of my sponsors. He bought me a ticket to go with him. And I was there at Stockbrook Manor Golf Course with Tyson.
2022, wasn't it?
It might have been, yeah. I think it was just when I was starting out I don't think I'd even had my debut at that point. But I remember going down to that, and I remember you was there now. Yeah, I remember. That was crazy.
The Gold Star shows.
The Gold Star. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Just want to move away from boxing a little bit. You mentioned your faith and how important that is to you in the last couple of years.
Yeah, listen, I try to go to church most Sundays. I'd be lying if I said I went every Sunday. You know, sometimes life does get in the way. You know, it's my only rest day in the week, so sometimes we sleep in a little bit late. But it's one of those things. I try to go when I can, but it's not about what you do in church. It's about what you do outside of the church too. You know, and I'm very heavy in my faith. You know, I pray every morning. I wake up. I pray every night before I go to bed, and I do believe God's got a plan for me, and I believe I'm destined for big things. You know, I think He sees something in me, and He sees that I want to spread the message of Him. You know, and show people what God can do for you. Because I went through such a bad time, and as we was talking about, you know, coming out of lockdown, and I feel like the only thing that saved me was God. You know, bringing boxing back into my life, and you know, bringing other things into my life at the time that were good for me. And you know, I prayed at that time. I was like, God, you need to help me. You know what I mean? And then things started to fall into place, so I can only thank Him for that. you know, my faith has only grown stronger since I've been here too. You know, Tony's a Christian who goes church most Sundays as well. So I've been surrounded by good people who all live by the same faith. So it's great. It's great.
Just to move away from boxing again, I know you're a massive West Ham fan. Things aren't going too well.
You said I was a smiley person. I might go now.
Mate, I'm a Man United fan. I'm going through the mill.
We're going through it together. We might just both start crying here on camera soon. If you leave it rolling long enough. It's torture at the minute. It's torture. It's hard to watch, you know. It's very hard to watch, but I have all faith that, you know, we can try and turn things around and not get relegated this season. As sad as that is to say, that we might be fighting relegation. It's tough. It's tough after
decent squad as well. After
the previous seasons, you know, the success we had in the Europa Conference League, and to now be debating whether we're going to be a relegation level side. It's worrying. You know, I'm sure the former glory of Man United, I'm sure you got it even worse.
Worried about it too.
Worrying. It's worrying. So do you know what it is? The competition in the Premier is so tough now. I feel like every team, you used to have the top 6, and every year you'd see them, you know, they'd be the top 6.
It's become a top 9 now.
Literally. Like the top half of the table were all good side, very good sides, and even the teams that, you know, maybe not the ones facing relegation. There's always got a couple that are struggling, but you know, even the middle of the, you know, 13th, 14th, 15th. I feel like sometimes they're hard to get a result out of. You're good to get a draw sometimes with some of them teams. So. Yeah, it's stiff competition now, but it's great really when you think about it for football, because I think a lot of the games are, you know, a lot more exciting too.
They are, they're far more competitive.
Yeah, definitely, and I think some of those shock results sometimes when it's not your team, it's quite fun to watch, you know.
Got to put a smile back on your face here, because we spoke about this on the way to the gym. I mean, obviously, the dream for you is, you know, British and Commonwealth champion, but obviously the dream for any boxer is world champion. 100%. And one of the things I mentioned to you, you know, what about we've got all these big stadium fights. We've got the Spurs Stadium, we've got Wembley. I mean, that London Stadium, that would be the dream, wouldn't it?
100%. Look, my eyes are fully fixated on British and Commonwealth title October 17th, but you know, that can't be the end goal for me, because when I then win that October 17th, well, where'd you go from there? I know I got what it takes to end up being a world champion in this sport. At whatever cost, I will get there. You know, I know what's destined for me, and to sell London Stadium out to ideally be the first ever person to put on a big show, that would be, you know, incredible. And I think that'd be one of those days then when you think, how do I ever top this? Obviously, bar when you have your children and things like that, how do I top that in life? You know, as an achievement to walk out at London Stadium, the home of my childhood club, and you know, the club that I love, regardless of how they're doing. It'd be a dream come true.
Absolutely, pal. Listen, I just want to get your thoughts on Ricky Hatton's passing. Such a huge character, not just in British boxing but globally. A man who's just loved for how much of a fierce warrior he was, how much of a character he was, how funny he was. It's just a devastating loss for the boxing community as a whole, isn't it?
I feel like regardless of how well you knew Ricky, when you found out the news, it almost choked you up a little bit, because when you talk about a man that you know, you get what you see, and yeah, it's just a great guy. You know, I was lucky enough for him to be in my changing rooms at my last fight, and to have that kind of experience again, just around you in the changing rooms, just knowing that Ricky Hatton's there at your fight, a man that done so much for British boxing and is an absolute legend of the sport, and will go down as a legend forever. You know, amazing guy, and he had a heart of gold. You know,
he did.
I know a lot of people that are very close to him. Yeah, just gutting news. At first, I did not believe it was real. My dad told me, and I thought, you see some of them wind up sometimes that people post that people had died, and at first I genuinely believed it was. And then he showed me who had posted it, and I was like, there's no way that'd be fake, you know. And just honestly could not fathom it. And you know, my prayers go out to his family, to Campbell, you know, to everyone that knew him so well, that would be so saddened by the loss of him. I pray for all of them.
Your stablemate Conor Ben had a fitting tribute to him yesterday. I think it was the only time I was happy to see someone wearing a Manchester City jersey in my lifetime. I thought, but it was a lovely tribute. Just to move on to his fight, you were at the press conference yesterday. How do you see that going? November 15th.
Do you know what? I was proud of how Conor held himself yesterday. I feel like Chris was, he was trying to antagonise him, as he always does. He's always got to be the Chris Eubank show, innit, whenever he turns up. If you can't tell, I'm not the biggest fan of him. But I thought Conor, held himself really well. And I thought to have to watch that tribute at the start of his press conference, I think, as much as it was lovely to see the tribute, it must have been so hard for him then to sit up there, and you could clearly see how saddened he was by watching it, and he was very close to Ricky. So to get through that press conference, stay cool, calm and collected like I feel he did, I was very proud of him. And I think, if he keeps that, which I feel like he's going to do this camp, you're going to see a much more educated performance from him, and I do believe he gets the job done. 100%.
I'm just going to end it with one impression. Wishing you all the best, Mr. Harry Redknapp, a West Ham legend. Well, George is fantastic, I mean, he's training with Tony. Tony's a great trainer, I don't know if he's a West Ham fan or not, but he is. He's all right. He had great memories, me managing West Ham, and playing for them as well, fantastic. The boy's terrific, he comes in here, big smile on his face, enthusiastic, you're brilliant, fantastic, great.
That's quality, man. Can I just have?
You do your Scouse accent now if you want.
You want me to do my Scouse accent? Seriously? You want me to? I don't want to offend the people, It's not bad, but I don't want to offend no one.
For someone from the other end of the country, bit of Ricky, doing a Scouse accent, it's very impressive.
I've got a couple of Scousers part of my team, that might be why. And I like watching Paddy the Baddy, so I like watching him eating food, so you know what I'm saying? Him eating some chicken and chips and that, you know what I mean? And a can of Coke as well. Listen, man, you can't get better than that. So, yeah.
George, one final message to all our viewers, why they should tune in to you against Kieron Conway, October 17th, your call. Our viewers, everyone, tune in.
You're going to see a dominant, spiteful performance to watch me become the youngest British middleweight champion ever. Oosh!